Probably more.
How much money?
Rounding it down, and I think it's like 333.
Not a mathematician, but yeah.
333 and a third.
And the ticket sales.
If a 3
and
goes
the
to a
merch.
9, what is that, 300%?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. But it wasn't a 3 and a 9, I'll tell you that.
Massive.
Massive numbers.
Massive. Changed their business model worldwide in terms of global expansion. You know how much money I got paid for that? Zero. No one thought you would ever wrestle anywhere other than WWE.
I wasn't under contract at the time.
You were not, but you had always said to me, I'll never wrestle for anyone other than Vince, et cetera,
True
et cetera.
story.
True story.
I said that everywhere.
And I was hesitant to call you, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it because this is the right match for Kenny. And it turned out it was the right match for you too, because you came and did what you do better than anybody else in the history of the business. You reinvented yourself, and you came in there and you terrorized the Japanese like no one since Bruiser Brody. God rest his soul.
Godzilla.
Unbelievable.
That was the plan.
And you were, to use my parlance, you were a man among insects in Japan. You were destroying people. And what you and Kenny did, that was all anybody talked about. I don't know what the numbers were. I mean, I do know. I don't want to tell them. I know
I'm a
you
numbers
know.
guy. I'll put myself
The
over
numbers
Kenny
are
over all day long.
astronomical.
Went up 300% on New Japan World.
And a lot of people said to me at the
Maybe even
time,
more.
Probably more.
How much money?
Rounding it down, and I think it's like 333.
Not a mathematician,
and a
but
third.
yeah.
333 and a third.
and the ticket sales,
If a 3
and
goes
the
to a
merch.
9, what is that, 300%?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. But it wasn't a 3 and a 9, I'll tell you that.
Massive.
Massive numbers.
Massive. Changed their business model worldwide in terms of global expansion. You know how much money I got paid for that? Zero. 0 yen, $0. Do you know how many times I was thanked by that company for that? 0 times.
0.
Do you know how upset I was about that? Not at all. Not at all.
Wow.
Because that was just one step in the plan. I didn't do that for money. If I wanted to make money, I'd have stayed in the businesses I was in before. I wanted to make history. You can't put a price on what the three of us did that day. Chris, you can't. You got well compensated.
Yeah, I got well compensated.
But Chris,
but it's
what's more
But
important
it's
to you?
timed 100-fold since then because of it.
Take the money away. Your legacy. This company we're here today in AEW. What's more important? The money, the 7 figures, or that, if you had to choose one?
It's that.
Of course it is.
And that's the thing too. When you're talking with about me saying I would never work anywhere but for Vince ever again, you know, there's a certain atmosphere in WWE, and you know, it is what it is, and I enjoyed it there for my time there. But this was a whole different level of star positioning, shall we say? Positioning it in the main event of the Tokyo Dome with Kenny, who, yes, a proven huge star in New Japan. Me, I hadn't been there since 1997 when I was doing jobs for Kanemoto or whoever the hell it was, El Samurai. So for me to go there, people kind of knew who I was, but not really. I mean, unless you were a fan from 20 years prior. So I had to start from scratch. They might know the idea of what Chris Jericho is, or maybe heard the name or seen some matches when we came to Japan to do the Sumo Arena. But this was a chance for me to prove myself on a completely different level. So it was a real kind of fight or flight, as Kenny said earlier, type of a gig. And had your suggestion not come up, I might never have been there. Which then in turn, I think, motivated Kenny, like you said, Winnipegger, fan of mine or whatever it was, mutual respect at that point. It was completely something I don't think anybody saw it coming.
Yeah, you know, there's always a lot of you fear the resistance that you face when you try something new or try something that no one's ever seen before. And at the very least, at that point in time in my career anyway, there were still the voices in the back of my head that were kind of doubting, you know, is what we're doing so revolutionary that we're actually going to face a lot of backlash from this? You know, this is so much different from any other main event that had come before it. Usually,
You're right.
yeah, it would be whoever the top star is, the champion, the IWGP heavyweight champion of the world would be in the main event, and that would be it. And he would face the top homegrown star, possibly guest, but chances are they would probably be two people that had spent a lot of time in the country, probably citizens, probably Japanese. I remember that I was the first foreign main eventer in a long time for Tokyo Dome, proving that yeah, we deserve to stand on the same stage, and that we could do it. We could be a draw. We could bring in money. But it was still kind of part of the same formula, because I was pretty much a Japanese citizen at that point. And then when you'd come in with a very new IWGP US Championship, no one had thought that would be a belt that they would see represented on such a large scale. Tokyo main event, that was going to be a belt that was going to be primarily defended on American soil. And then when you'd come in, again, like you said, you hadn't been around since 1997, just to suddenly send shockwaves throughout the entire industry and be trusted with a main event position. Of course, I'm going to have feelings that, yeah, maybe there's going to be backlash from the fans. Maybe there's going to be backlash from the community, from people who stay up to these, ungodly hours watching the New Japan streams, guys that are staying up until 4, 5, 6 in the morning to watch their favorite wrestling programming. Maybe it's because they want just traditional strong style wrestling. Maybe it's because they want to see that formula that had been tried and tested throughout the years, but we're changing it all up again. So I was worried about what would happen, the negative connotations behind that. But boy, we changed everything in a complete different way.
You had, like you said, two foreigners in a main event there, because it was a double main event.
Yep.
And I remember it was
which is also very rare.
Very rare.
Yeah.
And Okada and Naito was furious because he had been screwed out of the main event before.
Yes.
So he was constantly saying, "Oh, it's not a double main event," and I was saying constantly, "It is a double main event," which led to Naito and I feuding for the next year. But they were angry about it. But the bottom line is, business is business.
The negative connotations behind that. But boy, we changed everything in a complete different way.
You had, like you said, two foreigners in a main event there, because it was a double main event.
Yep.
And I remember it was
which is also very rare.
Very rare.
Yeah.
And Okada and Naito was furious because he had been screwed out of the main event before.
Yes.
So he was constantly saying, "Oh, it's not a double main event," and I was saying constantly, "It is a double main event," which led to Naito and I feuding for the next year. But they were angry about it. But the bottom line is,
It's because they want to see that formula that had been tried and tested throughout the years, but we're changing it all up again. So I was worried about what would happen, the negative connotations behind that. But boy, we changed everything in a complete different way.
you had, like you said, two foreigners in a main event there, because it was a double main event.
Yep.
And I remember it was
which is also very rare.
very rare.
Yeah.
And Okada and Naito was furious because he had been screwed out of the main event before.
Yes.
So he was constantly saying, "Oh, it's not a double main event," and I was saying constantly, "It is a double main event," which led to Naito and I feuding for the next year. But they were angry about it. But the bottom line is, business is business.
I'll tell you who wasn't angry.
Who?
The office execs at Bushi Road counting their money that night.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, Don, when you see numbers like that and you say it's part of the plan, let's talk about what the next step is for you and Kenny. But before we do that, if any of you Sexy Beast Talk is Jericho listeners have ever done boxing, kickboxing, or even thought about learning how, you just don't have the time, or maybe you don't have access to a good boxing gym, you need to check out Fight Camp. Fight Camp gives you everything you need to start boxing and kickboxing from home. It comes with the best freestanding punching bag available, great quality boxing gloves, quick hand wraps, and their unique punch sensors that show you real-time progress and stats on any iOS device. Fight Camp also has 6 trainers to choose from, and they all have real fight experience to lead you through a 15, 30, or 45-minute workout that's structured like a boxing match. It sounds so cool, doesn't it? It's the perfect home workout for everyone, men, women, children. It's great for all fitness levels, and it's super fun. And with the Fight Camp punch tracking tech, you can see your progress, work on your technique, and compete with others. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or an expert, there's a workout for you. It's a great way to learn how to box or kickbox and get an awesome workout while you're learning at your own pace from the comfort of your own home. Fight Camp's 6 trainers created all the workouts and lessons backed on their own experiences training for fights, and they offer a bunch of different ways for you to learn. Fight Camp also allows you to pay over time, so with Affirm financing, you can get your Fight Camp set up right away and make easy monthly payments over 24 months. Plus, you can save on commute time and gas, and you can have up to 5 accounts per household, so you get a boxing gym for your whole house to use. Like I said, Fight Camp offers flexible financing for as low as 0% APR and $0 down. And right now, as a limited time offer, you get free shipping and a gift valued at up to $109 with every Fight Camp package. A gift worth $109. Just go to joinfightcamp.com/talk. Get free shipping and a gift valued up to $109 at joinfightcamp.com/talk. Bring an authentic boxing and kickboxing gym into your home with Fight Camp. Go get your free gift. Go join fightcamp.com/talk. Join fightcamp.com/talk. And if you're looking for some apparel to use while you box and kickbox at Fight Camp, don't forget painmaker.store. Go check out all of the great designs that are inspired by my time and tours of Japan. Everybody in AEW is wearing them, and people all around the nation are sending pictures of themselves wearing it to at I am Jericho on Twitter. Please do it, and I will repost. So go check that out right now. Painmaker.store for the apparel, and joinfightcamp.com/talk for the workout. So Don, like you said, when you see this and you sit back, it's part of the plan. What's the next step for the plan? Because then you go on to become the vice president. Is that the correct term? Vice president?
Executive vice president.
Executive vice president of Impact.
With Scott.
I'm one of those too.
We're this is EVPs out the wazoo.
But once again, though, I'm not an EVP. But guess who helped you get the gig as an EVP, Don?
There you go, man.
I made a very influential call to who? Leonard Asper from where? Winnipeg.
There you go.
It all goes back to Winnipeg, man.
There you go.
My goodness. So how did that stand as far as the next step of your plan? Was your idea to try and bring Kenny to Impact? Or what was your thought to bring you guys back together again?
I think that my hope was that our deal in Japan would change the wrestling business in a fundamental way. And yeah, I've said it publicly. If there were no AEW, I think, we would have moved heaven and earth to have both of you in Impact Wrestling.
Mm-hmm. We discussed it.
There's no question. It was the Bobby Hull. It was the $1 million check at Portage and Maine in 1972. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
What year was that?
1970.
1970. And Izzy Asper, Leonard Asper's father, was at Portage and Maine for that ceremony. So that resonated.
You just got yourself a hockey player.
Exactly. So yeah, that would have happened, and I don't know how that would have played out. I'll say this: I don't care about ratings and numbers and accolades. I care about history, as I've said. So we would have changed history if that had been the case. I like the fact that we added to the milieu of pro wrestling by having AEW come into.
I never knew you were
effect as it
bilingual,
was.
Don.
That's a good word.
Multilingual.
Yeah, wow.
Multilingual. Yeah, I was
Nice.
speaking Spanish on a media call the other day. So, but yeah, I think we would have changed it regardless. But, people thought, he did all of this to become the EVP of Impact Wrestling. I love Impact Wrestling, and I'm happy and with the work Scott and I have done, work very hard along with the team there. But the plan is always much grander. And I said when I took that job, it's not done. And I said the same thing. Kenny said the same thing from 2 weeks ago. We're not done.
Nope.
No one's ever changed the course of wrestling history more than once until us. Why don't we do it 3 times, Kenny? What do you think?
And the thing is, too, Don, regardless of what you are at Impact Wrestling, there's no job title for what you're actually in the business for, which is changing history, which is changing the entire trajectory of pro wrestling. You could be the president, you could be the owner, you could be the booker. It doesn't matter, but there's no job title for what you do, and what we do goes beyond what's required from us at the workplace. What we do requires thinking outside the box. What we do requires going to extreme lengths to change the infrastructure, to change the landscape of an entire industry. And you can't do it. Like you said, this has been years and years and years and years in the making. You can't do it overnight. You can't rush these things.
People talk about dream matches. And I always say wrestling fans are a lot like people, Chris. They dream small.
Well, they actually are people.
Some of them.
Yeah.
But they dream small. No one dreamt what happened 2 weeks ago
No.
on AEW.
I didn't dream it. I didn't think
that's
it was
when
possible.
people ask me, why do you say you and Kenny are next level consciousness? It's because we're thinking at a totally different level. Our dreams are huge. Our dreams aren't about matches and booking and wrestling.
Gifts,
God,
Yeah.
like it's frankly annoying. So we're going to keep moving the needle. We're going to keep having fun. And I like to look, I used to say, I was a university professor for a time, as Kenny knows. I taught international business. I'm the only MBA in pro wrestling, and that doesn't even matter.
Professor
because-
Callis, they would call you.
Yeah.
Sure. Call me whatever you want. At the end of the day, I used to tell my students, do your reading to prepare for what I'm going to teach you. Don't wait for me to teach you. Do your reading and be prepared so you're open to what I'm showing you. I would invite people to open themselves up and prepare themselves for what Kenny Omega and Don Callis have next. There's a famous parable in the Bible where there were some hungry people, and Jesus didn't just feed them.
Oh, I know this one.
He
Go ahead.
taught them how to fish.
Yep.
Kenny Omega and I are teaching people how to think.
It's very profound.
It's
Thank
the
you.
empty cup analogy. You don't arrive to a lesson with a cup half full, 3/4 full. Come with an empty cup. That way you can learn everything that we're about to teach. A lot of people have preconceived notions about how wrestling should be. They're judging based on what they've seen in the years that they've watched professional wrestling, people that have the open mind that come to watch these shows, they're the ones that are going to benefit the most out of this. The wrestlers that watch what we do, that study what we do with an open mind, they're the ones who may take our position when we're about ready to pack it in. But it's the ones that feel that wrestling has to be a certain way. That wrestling has to be the way that it was done by one man, Vince McMahon, who had the empty cup, right? He was the one who paved the way for everything. If they're not like that man, don't expect to change anything. Just expect to be, a cog in the machine of professional wrestling. Don't expect just to be another fan, another number that everyone counts on the big ratings war. It's not about numbers. It's not about being, a worker ant to the queen. This is about us doing what we think we're capable of, and that's changing the way that you watch wrestling, the way that you think about wrestling, the way that you're emotionally invest in wrestling, and also to expect the unexpected, which people haven't been able to do for a number of years now, since you showed up at Fukuoka, probably.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, Chris, I'll just say this. If you have some insects, I'll say some ants on the ground,
Maybe maggots.
maggots too, they're concerned. Those insects are only concerned with one thing. They're going to mill around on the ground and they're going to try
Reproduce.
to feed themselves and they're trying to reproduce.
Want to get to the ice cream?
They don't care about reading Tolstoy. They can't possibly conceive of it because they're not built that way.
They couldn't even read Toy Story, let alone Tolstoy.
Very good. I see what you did there.
Well played.
But that's what we're dealing with what we're trying to put out there.
Well,
We're gods among insects, Chris, the three of us.
you said we are definitely the Lord of the Flies in many different ways,
And the rings.
and the rings.
Yeah.
That's right. And rings. The
And rinks, yeah.
Rings the company.
Yeah.
So we're talking about expect the unexpected, and you made another big announcement this week. We'll talk about that, guys. But first, I want to say thank you to another tremendous sponsor, the Zebra. Insurance can be complicated, and that's why the Zebra was created. When you use the zebra.com, insurance finally feels like it's in black and white. No more confusion, just honest rates from real companies. The Zebra is the nation's leading insurance comparison site for car and home insurance. They can help you save money today. It's so easy. Just go to thezebra.com and answer a few questions to compare accurate insurance quotes for free. And don't worry, the Zebra protects your personal information and makes sure there are no hidden fees or surprises along the way. But here's the best part. You can secure your insurance from thezebra.com or over the phone from one of their licensed insurance agents. With states reopening, people back on the road, the Zebra is committing to making sure you and your family are covered. How much money can you save on car or home insurance? Visit thezebra.com/Jericho. That's THEZEBRA.com/Jericho for insurance in black and white. So when you're talking about changing history again, it's something that we haven't seen. Expect the unexpected of going to Impact. We've seen Kenny showed up for the last few weeks on the show. Now we know there's a big pay-per-view match.
Chris,
I
come
know-
on, hard to
yeah.
kill. You and I named that with
I was
on the
involved in
podcast,
that
the
too.
Hard
Gee,
to
I
Kill
remember that.
podcast
Wow, yeah.
last
Jeez
year.
Louise.
That pay-per-view may
And
well
where's
have been
Chris
cursed
from?
at the
Where's
time.
Chris from?
Winnipeg.
He's from Winnipeg.
There you
Right.
go.
There is.
The Hard to Kill 2. January 16th in Nashville. It's going to be available on pay-per-view, of course. Impact Wrestling. We dropped the bombshell just yesterday. No one thought it could happen. Kenny Omega, AEW World Champion, and the Good Brothers, Biz
Unbelievable.
Pliz in the His House. Yes. In a six-man tag for the ages against the Motor City Machine Guns, the revolutionaries of tag team wrestling, and the Impact World Champion, Rich Swann.
I'm a big fan
That's
of Rich
your
Swann.
main event.
yeah.
I know you are. You told me to sign
Yeah.
it. Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill. It's going to be the biggest pay-per-view of the year. It's going to blow
Well,
people's
it's going to be
minds.
the biggest pay-per-view on Impact history. So you got one of
Kenny
the top draws in the
Omega.
business on your show.
Kenny Omega, the god of pro wrestling, is going to get in the ring with another world champion. It's going to blow people's minds. The Good Brothers, people are very excited about the Bullet Club, all this stuff. There's so much going on, it's hard to even comprehend.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question, Kenny. As we all know,
Please.
Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, those pieces
go
of
back.
shit. You go back a long way. They kind of gave us the Iggy, the little runaround, and they'll talk about it, and they have many times.
Yep.
But what was it that you got? Like you said, was kind of the old old blood brought you back together again? What the past that you had, the bond that you had? Did you have to discuss what they did trying to come in here, or did you even care?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Chris. When the Good Brothers were coming up upon their
Contract being up.
we were the first people to light them up, give them a call to say that, yes, you have a home here if you want it.
Yeah.
And they ended up going back for more money.
Right.
And there's no shame in that. I don't know what motivates people to do what we do in the ring, what we do in the business. If you're a family man, priorities change. You probably know this, better than anybody. Sure. I don't have anything to hold me back from doing what I know must be done. This is a responsibility, what I'm doing right now. I feel that I have the ability, and thus I am responsible to change the business, to give people more jobs, to give the people that are competing directly against me, to give them double, triple, quadruple their salary. That's part of my responsibility. They can thank me all they want for it. They can hate me all they want for it. But when they put their food on the table, when they send their kids to college, that's because of me. Mm-hmm. The only part that they have to deal with is the part that they don't like the person looking back at them in the mirror, because they can't be me. Because all of the accolades that I collect on a yearly basis, and there's multiples, all the needle that moves breaks the scale every time that I do anything. Anytime that I open my mouth, anytime that I type something on a keyboard, anytime that I do anything in a ring that breaks the internet, I know it upsets people. But Chris, I mean,
it's what you do.
It's again,
it's who you are.
I can't change who I am. I can't change my DNA. I can't change the purpose. I can't change my life's goal.
Okay, so having said all that, was it a great reunion to be back with your old brothers there?
Again, when I needed direction, when I was lost, when I didn't know how to go about chasing the dream to grasp what I knew was available to me, that's where Don came in, treating me like family. No, we're not family by blood, but I call him family because he was there for me like a father, like a brother, like an uncle,
Since you were 10.
Like my Uncle Larry.
Uncle Don.
Exactly. And the Good Brothers, in the same way, were there for me when I was in Japan. When I was trying to take a new challenge, and that was going from the Indies in Japan to now taking a huge new leap to New Japan, where there's not much crossover in fan base. Bushiroad did a great job of creating their own universe of fans. The people that watch New Japan, they're only watching New Japan.
That's true.
There's going to be some crossover, but they had developed a very new fan base, and mostly women, as you know, women and children, which is incredible.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that watch their product and strictly their own product. So I wanted to know, how can I be successful? What do I do? Is this Kenny Omega good enough? And the Good Brothers are the ones to give me a nudge with their elbow and say, it's not good enough. And I want to see this Kenny Omega, the one that you show me when we go out for yakiniku, when we go out for Korean barbecue, when we go out for these sponsored dinners. I want to see this guy. I want to see this personality in that ring. And I think what you're doing in Japan with DDT, I don't think it's enough. And I don't think it's gonna convey your message that you want to tell these people. And I think what you want to do is going to take another 5, 6, 7, 8 years to do. When we don't have that time. We need to strike while the iron's hot, and we've got the way. And that driving force, that broomstick engine, was the Bullet Club. So that's why there was the birth of the Cleaner, and that's why Gallows, Anderson, all the Bullet Club guys, Tama Tonga, Fale, they're the ones to introduce me, to accept me with open arms, and to present to the world the Cleaner. Yeah, I got to speak with my own mouth, with my own voice on that night, but if it wasn't for their humble acceptance of me, and for them to introduce me to a live crowd, and then give me the platform to then in my first match win the junior heavyweight title, who knows how long it would have taken. We probably wouldn't be here today. I'd probably be still plugging away, being a white meat baby face, in New Japan. And I'd probably be like, I hate to say it, but a guy like Kota Ibushi, who's got all the talent in the world, but has yet to win the big prize. I owe that to the Bullet Club. I owe it to the Gallows and Gunn. Absolutely. So do I feel bad, that they kind of screwed us to take the payoff at WWE? The answer is no. I don't need to know their reasons for doing it. What I care about is that they're family, and that when they needed me, I was there for them like they were there for me.
And now they're there for you again with this giant 6-man reunion of the Bull. How big is that for Impact to have the first official reunion of the real Bullet Club?
Wow.
It's another one of those things that many of the people out there thought could never happen.
Right.
Kenny Omega and Don Callis seem to be in the business of giving people things they never thought could happen. So it's huge for all of those people, and it's huge for Impact Wrestling to have the greatest wrestler in the history of the wrestling industry, Kenny Omega, the god among insects, on our pay-per-view.
It just sucks that we're all out of ideas now, hey, Don?
Yeah, what are we going to do?
Wow. Yeah.
Jeez, what will we come up with
We've
next?
blown all the big guns already. There's got to be nothing left in the tank.
Once you go to the chopper, you get the helicopter. What are you going to do next?
That's it.
But let me ask you just quickly, Kenny, as we start to wind down here.
Yep.
You had what a lot of people are saying was the best match of the year in Mexico with Laredo Kid just basically a couple days ago.
Yep.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second of all, I know there was 0 people in the crowd for
Zero.
that. Tell us a little bit about that experience and about that match.
You know what? One of the things that made the Mexican experience for me going there and not knowing what to expect was the crowd. You know, it's always going to be different every country you go
Right.
to. You know, I've had great experiences in Canada, U.S., Japan. Chile was another place that blew me
Crazy,
away with
yeah.
just how crazy those fans can get, and it fills you with all kinds of energy. But Mexico is very unique. You know, as you know, they have the horns all the time. They have these clapper things, and they're loud from the start to the finish.
Right.
So for me to kind of have my first experience at Triple Mania quite some time ago, yeesh, in front of 35,000 people was incredible. So to go to that same building for another Triple Mania, and it's almost like this closed. We're in the same building, but it's this very close quarters, very intimate setting. It would look like we were going to appear on a talk show because we had commentary people and we had a couple big wig exec guys sitting on like sofas around the ring, and that's it. You know, and we had the commentary guys at a booth. They had the plexiglass separation between each other so for social distancing and all that. But to be there without that noise, but still, with the 6-sided ring, with still the roving camera that spins around and gives you kind of like a crazy. It's a complete different type of cinematography. It was odd, but I feel like the practice that we'd had here, in Jacksonville, it sort of just made it like any other day. Aside from the ring and noticing that we have some ropes angled at you rather than it being a box. Yeah. That was really the only difference. But it felt like just another day at the office because I'd actually wrestled Laredo Kid twice in 2 multi-man tag matches. But, I mean, to kind of face Laredo Kid in his ultimate form where he was in better shape, he was a better athlete, he was, as a professional wrestler, just more complete. I could have asked for a better experience. I kind of went into that match just thinking I might be disappointed, but and I wasn't sure how the fans are going to take to it. It's crazy when you're
People are raving about it.
I mean, when you're a decorated performer and you can
Belt collector.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, some matches are going to take 5 minutes, some matches are going to take 15, and that one took about 30. It's going to be different everywhere I go. There's all different levels of opponents. But yeah, Laredo Kid was fantastic. Just not quite there. Not quite there.
It's kind of funny how now the norm for us is no people.
It really is.
And I think once we start getting people back, then you'll really start to hear the reactions of what people are thinking. But the best way to gauge it now is by the ratings and by the reviews. And like we said, the hottest act in the show right now is Kenny Omega and
Chris,
Don Callis.
we all started off wrestling in front of no people, and here we are again.
It's like bumpers all over
It all
again.
comes full circle. Just don't drop kick me in the corner again.
That's what they give you a belly-to-belly suplex. You almost had a heart attack and a little
Like, seriously, he comes in, Kenny.
Yeah.
12 people in the building.
bumpers
Bumpers
bar,
and he belly-to-belly suplexes me.
in an 8x8 ring.
God, it's like working a bag of sledgehammers back then.
That's where no matter what move you take, your legs are hitting the ropes every time.
I can never be pinned.
Little stiff.
Well, that's because when I first met him at Gold's Gym in 1989, I asked him if he was a natural. He said no and walked away.
I think when you asked him, he thought you asked him if he was all natural.
Don Callis, last thoughts here. What is your plan for you and Kenny over the next, over the next year in 2021 and beyond?
Kenny Omega is going to be AEW World Champion for as long as we decide to keep doing this.
Yeah.
There is no one out there who's going to come close to beating Kenny Omega. Am I going to be satisfied to just walk around and Kenny and I have this belt and do our thing and set ratings records? No. So what you have to look forward to is the next history-changing cataclysmic event, and we'll let you know when that happens. You know when it'll happen? When no one expects it.
Yep. You only know it when you see it.
Well, that seems to be your MO, and like I said, it's between the three of us, we have put Winnipeg. I'll say this to anybody: it is the most important city in the history of pro wrestling at this point in time.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, congratulations.
Talk is cheap.
Welcome to Talk is Jericho. It's the pod of thunder and rock and roll. And one of my favorite guests returns to the show. My dad, Teddy Irvin, is here as we wrap up the never-ending Jericho 30 celebration. This is the last, though. He was there from the very beginning. Well, he's been there since the day I was born, but he was there from the moment I discovered wrestling to the day I told him that's what I wanted to do for a living, to my first visit to the Hart Brothers Pro Wrestling School, which was behind a little gas station. Teddy's got stories about all that, memories that he has that I don't, memories that I have that he doesn't. Welcome to Talk is Jericho, the pod of thunder and rock and roll. And we're going big today with Cody Rhodes, AEW EVP, and one of the judges of the huge new TBS series, Go Big Show. And of course, we've got something even bigger. The one and only Duff McKagan joke of the week.
It's Jericho, Duff McKagan calling you. I got a little quandary I think I figured out here. So a shark can swim faster than me. But on land, I could run faster than a shark. So I guess in a triathlon, it would come down to who's a better cyclist. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Oh, man. I give it a little bit of a chuckle. I wonder how Duff would do telling jokes on the new Go Big Show. I mean, bad jokes are a talent, right? But like I mentioned, Cody Rhodes returns to Talk is Jericho, and we can call him Cody Rhodes now. We couldn't in the past. Not only is he talking about the new Go Big Show on TBS, which he just premiered last night. It's on every single Thursday night. He's also talking about Mr. Brody Lee and the crazy, violent feud and the classic dog collar match they had. Ended up being the last match of Brody's career and possibly his best. Cody has some thoughts and feelings about that as well. We'll also hear about the first year of AEW. How all that went, what he hopes to see in year two, his own personal goals for the next 12 months. So all of those things, the Go Big Show, remembering Brody Lee's incredible 7 months in AEW and the first year of AEW Dynamite. Cody Rhodes is back on Talk is Jericho, and it starts now. So, big week here in AEW. A, it's kind of the first show of the new year. And B, it's the debut of the Go Big Show, which always makes me think of fans chanting for a babyface Paul White. Go Big Show. Go Big Show.
I am so, like, the wrestling fan, we might as well get Big Show on Go Big Show.
Right.
Because then it would just satiate their need to his song, his presence. Just for me, it was. I kept thinking maybe they'll change the name of this. But to the non-wrestling person,
they don't know.
They don't know. But
Let's go big or go home.
Stuck on it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the Big Show, right? He's going to be there.
But this is a big deal because, and I know being a host of a mainstream, cable TV kind of primetime show, it's not easy to get the gig. It's very important to. As the face of the show, but also for you, it's like you're now kind of hobnobbing with the celebrities from other worlds, which is always good for us and our business and for you.
That's like the first thing I thought of when I got the offer to do the show was it's weird that a wrestler's mind goes to that place, but it does. The first thing you think of is, well, this will be really good for the wrestling career as well. Like,
yeah,
there's so many other avenues of entertainment you could go down, but the first thing I thought of was, it's good for wrestling. And I was there on set in Macon in the quarantine bubble that they designed, which is kind of beautiful social experiment. I was there long enough to go from really wanting and itching to get back to Dynamite and wrestling in the locker room and just get back. So by the end, I didn't want to leave. I got really invested in the whole season. I'm hoping fans dig it because there's really quality stories with these acts. Some of these just heartland, unique, quirky, freak show, carnival style acts. There's really good people.
So what's kind of the concept of the show?
So the traditional talent show is going to be, of course, singing and dancing and what they call, I guess, in like the Hollywood world is the black shiny floor talent show, which there is no singing. There is no dancing. These are acts that I think probably the most important person on the show was the guy or girl who recruited all these acts. These are, for example, a one-armed archer, a strong, a traditional strongman, a Cirque style freak show artist, a mentalist, a lot of motorists. That being actually Kevin is here today, a monster truck performance. Then there were acts that were incredibly vague, like a guy named Leonid the Magnificent, which when we asked him what he did, he's magnificent. Is what he told us. And then his act was genuinely magnificent.
I saw a guy in the commercial in a wheelchair that's doing kind of motocross flips and stuff.
Wheels.
Wheels. Yeah.
And Wheels was the very first thing we saw. He ended up, Wheels, credit to Wheels, is kind of the standard for how every act, including all his acts, were judged. What's the score we gave? We were blown away by Wheels. It's a guy in a wheelchair doing basic like motocross tricks.
Yeah.
Great. Wheels was great too. He actually gave me a custom Hot Wheels of himself and signed it. I'm a big fan of Wheels.
So we're talking about kind of some of the other hosts. So who else was, obviously Snoop Dogg is kind of the host of the show.
Yeah, Snoop is
or the grand judge or something? Or
no, I mean, so the judge panel was, you have, songstress, beautiful, southern, just a gym in country music, and a great person, Jennifer Nettles, who was at the farthest end of the judges. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I got to know Jennifer the least solely based on how we were sitting.
Oh, because she's so
she was so far away.
Oh, I gotcha.
Then Snoop. Snoop is a producer on the show, but also Snoop, I feel like, was the unofficial leader, like the captain of the ship. And he saw things, as anyone who knows Snoop, and he's gone from being a world-renowned rapper to this guy's part of Americana. Like Snoop Dogg is everything.
That's a great point.
He's pop culture. He kind of had like a Jedi wisdom to him the whole show, and he saw things very differently than perhaps we saw them. And then closest to me, next to me, was my buddy Rosario Dawson, and it was Rosario. I think they did a great job in terms of the crew putting the show together and getting the 4 judges. A mistake, which maybe wasn't a mistake, is they picked the 4 nicest people they could possibly. Nobody wanted to tell anybody, like,
right,
not too great.
Yeah.
And then we're terrible in terms of we go behind the like into the judging tent and like, I don't know about that,
but behind the back.
Yeah, but we had just said he did a good job, and then you're gonna give him a 40, like. But yeah, Rosario, she had a really unique outlook on it, and I'm so excited to have got that experience with her, because she just embodied this character I've been watching in the Clone Wars and the Rebels for.
And my co-star from Jay and Silent Bob.
And yeah, she literally just man, I mean, she just right at the time we were doing it is weeks before the Mandalorian and the Ahsoka Tano debut, and she embodied the character that Dave Filoni created.
She was great, yeah.
Oh, double lightsabers. Yeah. She was super humble and a big Star Trek fan as well. But yeah, we got to know each other the most because we were sitting right by each other. And the show's definitely one thing I'm looking forward to. Hopefully it gets a season 2. It's made for a live audience. Bert Kreischer is up there. He was just
he's the comedian.
Doing jokes.
So he's like the host, kind of.
He's the host, and he's doing these great jokes, and it's just for us 4.
Yeah.
And they were so the COVID protective as a production.
They're super protective.
I mean, they look like stormtrooper masks. Like they weren't just wearing the normal mask. Only the 5 of us were unmasked. And then the acts, and then as soon as they were done, they'd put their mask back on. They were obviously to keep the bubble. They had to be very, very safe. You couldn't leave the bubble. That's the social experiment of it. It felt like being on a train.
So, first of all, 2 questions. First of all, how did you get the gig?
It's a great question. I will say this was a byproduct of AEW.
Because we're so popular on TNT.
AEW doing so well on TNT. And who better to judge? I say, hey, maybe I wasn't qualified to judge, but if you really think about our performance and our work, I definitely know what a nuanced performance looks like. I know what a suspension of disbelief and the layers to your acts. So I think a pro wrestler up on the judging panel.
I'll do you one more
Perfect.
too, not to interrupt you. That those other guys. Well, Snoop might get it. Also knowing what it's like to perform all of these feats, like you said, with nobody there, especially
Sure.
if you're Lenny the Magnificent or whatever you said his name was, Leonid the Magnificent or whatever it was. It's like I'm sure part of his thing is people going, whoa, So when that's not there, you also can judge. And this guy really did that. He really handled that well.
Oh,
That's
actually a really great point. There are plenty of times in the show, though, that I sat there thinking, why am I in charge of, especially when it gets near the end, it's $100,000 on the line. A lot of these people really wanted that money and the exposure, obviously. So you got a little chippy. It was all fun and games. And then when you start saying, oh, you're going home,
Yeah.
and different story for me. I've never been on one of these shows before, so it was unique to see people not being stoked. To us, the money was never on the line,
Yeah. You get paid either way.
Yeah, so it was fun to see people not being stoked when you're sending them home. Like,
Right.
damn, this is not
right,
happening.
right.
Yeah, so it was a byproduct of AEW on TNT, and obviously everything of AEW is a byproduct of Tony specific. Tony really does have a great network of people who can help better the wrestling space.
Agents and producers.
Producers, management, activists, the management company activist, Bernie, who's been just a godsend to me, because you always want all these things as a wrestler. You want all these things. Oh, I want a third party to sponsor me. I want to be on a show. And it's always the wrestler who's doing all the work. And then when you meet somebody like this who actually has a system in place where you can go meet people, sit with them, and they make that call. Like he's able to open so many doors for so many.
What's Bernie's
of
last name?
us.
Cahill?
I say Cahill, but I think it's
That's good,
yeah.
It was just in my head. I'm like, what's his last name? I forgot.
But just godsend to be able to get in the room. I feel like as wrestlers, we've always wanted to get in the room. We're just as equally popular all over the world as a form of entertainment.
Just as good on camera,
And
even more so.
Often, always there for a live spot. Never panic.
Throw something at you last minute, you got it.
Yeah. And I feel like people like Batista and yourself and Cena, Rock, obviously, you hear the same stories about them when they go on sets. Like, easiest people I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Willing to do anything.
Hardest workers.
Worker. First to get there, last to leave. That's because we're not getting a medal for that in the wrestling game. That's just the bit.
It's expected.
That's expected.
Yeah.
So Tony and Bernie being able to get myself in front of people, from there on, I felt like it was a match made for. It was just a match made in heaven in terms of being part of this show, and there being synergy between TBS and TNT, and that for me blows me away because TNT has been part of my life. Turner's been part of my life since 1989.
Yeah.
I live in Georgia today still as if like Dusty's still working at the CNN Center.
Right.
I drive by it as if it's still his office. And so I'm so excited for all of us as AEW to be on all over their
It's
stuff.
interesting. I was talking to Sting last night briefly, and he was saying just how cool it is to be back on TNT. And that's something that people said to me, oh, you're back on TNT. I never had a connection with TNT as a network because I was only there for a short 3 years, but it is part of your family's tradition and a major part of Sting's career. Like, it does mean that much more to you guys.
And with Sting, and I think to a degree the segments you've done with Eric, that's why it's not just like Eric showing up on WWE is one thing.
Right.
Eric showing up on TNT, knowing that he was the guy who said, give me prime time, he occupied those offices. Like, it's a weird synergy, a weird circle of time that we're back. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna commentate on like Braves baseball next. I want to do everything on Turner, Warner Media, and the Turner family. I love being part of it. I really do.
You mentioned the COVID bubble for the Go Big show. Let's talk about what it was like for 5 weeks filming that show, basically in isolation. And we're going to do that. But first, we got a friendly reminder from Steven Singer. Make sure your sweetie knows she's your star this Valentine's Day. Aw, picture this. It's Valentine's Day. she opens this really cool gift box and out slides a blue rose trimmed in gold. It's that blue color of the sky just before the sun sets, when you can just start to see the stars sparkling in the night. That breathtaking blue. Now picture a magnificent real 24 karat gold rose dipped in real pure 24 karat gold with petals in this rich blue color covered in sparkles made to mimic that night sky. That's Twinkle Twinkle, the brand new exclusive rose only available at Steven Singer Jewelers. Real jewelers, real roses, really dipped in pure 24 karat gold with a real lifetime guarantee. It's always the number one Valentine's Day gift that lasts forever. It comes with your own free personal love note, and it ships fast and free to the love of your life, your wife, your mom, your daughter, your aunt. It's a little something to say, I'm so lucky to have you in my life. Steven's brand new rose is $79, but his real 24 karat dipped roses start at only $59. Go right now to IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com and pick up a pure 24 karat gold rose now. Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned the bubble, like the COVID bubble. So what exactly did you have to do? Because this is when you were gone from AW for 6 weeks, 5 weeks?
Yeah, it was 5 weeks.
5 weeks, yeah.
And it was held to the standard. This is peak COVID. The cases are spiking everywhere when I go. So the agreement was, no one could leave the hotel. Macon Coliseum is connected to the Marriott. They are one and the same.
Oh, I gotcha.
So they're connected. So you couldn't leave the hotel once you got there. And I mean, like, I thought, well, I live 40 minutes from here, and my truck's parked outside. Who's really... But as soon as I got there, I realized, oh, no, they're deadly serious. As soon as I pulled up, a PA with a face shield on opens my door. They pull up the luggage caddy. Hey, I'm here to help you. I'm your PA for this. We're going to get you to your room for your 5-day, because you had to do a 5-day quarantine solo.
Just in the room.
Just in the room. You could go to the gym. You had a gym time, which is hilarious because the gym, not everyone went to the gym. They were really cool about letting people who I guess needed the gym more go to the gym, and they always gave me a gym time every day. But Snoop's time was hilariously like 7:30 every morning. And I thought, man, like, he's the first up, and then I'd see on his Instagram him doing like shuttle runs out in the parking lot. Definitely keeps himself in shape and had his crew there to keep him in shape. But everything from once you went through the door, they gave me a monitor that showed if I was 6 feet from somebody, it would start blinking red.
Really?
It blinked the entire time.
Wow.
So it showed you always had to have your mask on. So you really couldn't go ever back out into the parking lot. They took my keys. They put me in the room. The first nurse came up. You could do the swab yourself, the PCR, or she would do it.
Who would do it themselves?
I did it myself every
How?
time.
Really?
So I hated the two nurses because they were always like a little further. A little further. And then later, there was a red line you had to get to. And then they twist it. And by the time you got to the red line, the twisting of it was...
That's a hard one. Just thinking about that, too, makes me go like, ooh, I have a crying headache. Ugh.
Yeah, all of those things. You think you have COVID after because you have such a bad headache.
Yeah.
So you did a test every other day. You had to fill out a pass card every morning where you'd say, I feel great, no temperature, no symptoms. And randomly people, the third-party company they'd hired would, hey, do you have your pass card? You'd show it on your phone. If it was green, meant go. You could walk around after the 5 days. They did a great job, though, they made my room at the Marriott more than, or they, like, turned all the couches upside down, and, like, they made it like an actual big space for me to be in.
Oh, I gotcha.
It was basically 2 different rooms, and I had brought, a couple of gaming consoles. It's Hollywood, so when you ask for something, they get it. Yeah. So I don't have any big requests other than like guilt-free brownies and Bang energy drinks, which I think they ribbing me. There was hundreds of them. Like, how would I ever?
Well, that's how they do it, though.
Hundreds of them.
Mr. Rose needs his energy drink.
Yeah, so I was blown away by that. But the only thing, even Uber Eats and Postmates, you could order it, but you'd have to look at them through the window. They'd put it on a table, and then the PA would walk out and get it. So you'd always have to tell somebody, like, hey, I ordered Buffalo Wild Wings.
Wow.
Yeah, it was they did it right, and they had no They had no issues within any of their zones. There was multiple zones. This is 5 weeks, not a single person
It's amazing.
had a case or anything like that. They kept it locked down.
And it's funny, too, because we have a pretty strict COVID protocol here. And you kind of know, like, I'm sure, like, I always laugh when people say, like, well, are you social distancing? I'm like, well, yeah, but we're also in the ring sweating on each other and wrestling. It's like there's only so much social distancing you can do during a match. So I'm sure that, like, for you, it was like, well, we already do it and it works, but if this is what you guys want us to do, take it even a step further. Because, like you said, it's Hollywood and everything's super strict.
Yeah.
But
I thought it would have loosened up, and
Nice.
I realized like they're gonna finish this thing, and they're doing it right. Them being so strict allowed that show. They had to get it done.
yeah.
And it allowed that show to function in the time. A lot of acts, and they had a lot of different setups because these acts are so different. Monster Trucks is a
Sets
full
and
dirt
stuff, yeah.
arena. People hanging from the rigs in the sky. Everything was different because what they did. Some of these producers on this show should get these specific act producers. They didn't get near the credit they deserved. They would take somebody like, hey, do you shoot a bow with one arm? That's amazing. Can we make it an act? What if they'd present it in a way that was a performance if they didn't have it as a performance? Some were performers already, but I thought that was so cool. Like, and they
Just
had
to find unique performances and individuals to do these things.
exactly people who didn't know how they would. Oh, I do
Right.
this thing. Well, what if you did this target first,
Right.
And then this one pops up, and they'd create these fun little sets for every act. The budget on this show, I mean, that's a weird thing to say. The budget on this show was clearly big, no pun intended, because the moment I walked in, I was blown away with like the power tower, how we would score, and the throttles. It was wild.
What's cool to me about it too is like like I mentioned once again, we've done a pretty good job. But then when we saw a couple of weeks ago Tom Cruise yelling at somebody,
Yeah.
But I like everyone's kind of bagging on him, but I got his point. Same thing for your show. Like if Hollywood is going to go back to filming, then they have to do it right. There cannot be any mistakes.
Sure.
So that's why it was so strict for the Go Big show, and that's why Tom freaked out on Mission Impossible when everybody's watching us. If this fucks up, we could be down for another 6 months.
I only heard the audio where he was like, hey, I'm on the phone with producers every night.
Every night, yeah.
So I only heard the audio that made me like, yeah, Tom. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Like, I'm sure there was worse.
It was.
But the part I heard was like, hey, we want the business to come back.
Right. They're looking at us to decide if the entire business is come
Right.
back.
So
and it's the same
please.
for your guys' show, like for TBS or any cable show. It's okay. Because at first all these guys, it's going to be a super spreader, and they do it right, and actually nobody gets sick, and it's actually a pretty killer show, with the exception of nobody in the crowd. But that's just the way of the world, right?
There probably should have been a second show. There were 2 hotels, Courtyard Marriott and the Marriott, all in the property on the bubble. In the bubble. This Courtyard is where the acts were. And there were some Instagram videos that were taken down. They weren't too bad, but they were like combining acts out by the pool, in the parking lot. It looked like they had been all in the, COVID all over the world, and they come together in this bubble, and it was apparently quite a scene over there. I saw the slingshot artist was shooting paraphernalia up into people's rooms. The slackline guy was going over the pool. The fire dancer was dancing behind him. The scooter guy, Dejan, had one of the girls riding on the handlebars. It looked like
That should have been the show.
that. I was like, this sounds really, really entertaining. I just thought it was. That's why I looked at it as such a social experiment. I thought this is really cool. That they made friends. Because at the time of Go Big Show's filming, and even as it's coming out, we really just need some good, positive, happiness. 2021 is not going to be 2020. The show really represents that in a good way. It's very positive.
Let's talk about the amazing pair of matches you had with Brody Lee leading into your 5 weeks off from AEW. We're going to do that after a few words from Geico. So I know you own or rent your home. It can be hard work for sure, but you know what is not hard work? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. Let's talk about the reason why you had the 5 weeks off in our storylines was the amazing pair of matches that you had with Brody. And last week I had a lot of people come in and talk about it. Specifically did not invite you because I wanted to talk to you by just ourselves. Because, listen, we all know the story of him, and we all know how far he made it in our company in the 6 or 7 months that he worked here, and proved that he was a legit money-drawing main eventer.
Yeah.
But one of the first one was his match with Moxley, which was amazing. But the one that really put him over was you and the TNT title. That really took him to the next level, which was basically just a squash match. And it was a great squash match, and no one saw it coming. And it was really, really well done. Why did you feel that was the right way to go? And we'll talk about the dog collar match next. But for that part of the story, why did you feel that was the way to go?
Well, I wanted to do Vader Inoki, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for a while, but no one fit the profile.
Explain the Vader Inoki.
So Vader and Inoki, they build up the first ever match with Inoki and Vader, and they build up Vader basically for New Japan, I believe, at the time. And as my understanding of it, Vader beats him in 2 minutes, and it's one of the only time the Japanese audience almost is a near riot.
They never saw Inoki lose.
Never like, and never in that fashion. And, you know, Vader Inoki was kind of redone with Brock Cena from SummerSlam, where about 2 minutes in, you realized, oh,
this is different.
This is they're for the as a wrestler, you're like, they're going home. Like, and I thought no one's done that, and that would be really
Shocking.
It would be the right call, because in wrestling, anything can happen on any given night, and we have to consistently remind them of that. And also, he's near 7 feet. He's a legit super heavyweight who's mobile. It would make all the sense in the world if he was to catch me. I think the first thing he caught me with was a drop kick. It would make all the sense in the world that could be the thing. That could be the piece that puts me out. It's the liver shot, the shot on the jaw. Like, I know wrestling follows sometimes its traditional parameters, but when we break away from those, sometimes there's some magic. And he was just the perfect person. He didn't believe me when I told him. It was right next door to set the scene. Like, Chris's room is right by my room at Daly's place. When I told him, I go, "This is the easiest match you'll ever have," he didn't believe me. I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do anything."
And you literally didn't do anything.
I just
might have done a chop or something.
No, flurry of punches at the beginning, and that's it. I said, I don't want to do anything. And he was all worried about, well, I want to hook your leg. And don't even hook my leg. Absolutely disrespect me. Absolutely own me. Eat me alive. And then Arn added as Arn does, is a great finish man, the cherry on top with the moment with Anna at the very end, with Anna and Brandy choking her out.
Well, that happened that same night?
Same night, yeah.
Just there's a big beat down to the whole
crew,
family, right?
Everyone down. I just thought it was a great way to end the show, and honestly, it's a weird thing to say, but only in the inside baseball. Like in other interviews, I wouldn't give this answer, but in this space, I'd absolutely say it's my favorite match at AEW.
Wow,
it's my favorite one I've had, and I've wrestled you, I've wrestled Dustin, I've had a really fun outing with Darby.
Yeah.
I just loved how I felt. And I felt, so when he was over me, I didn't, last week was obviously all about Brody, and wrestlers always have a tendency to somehow make it about themselves. It's just wrestling, we don't mean poorly.
Yes.
It's wrestling. But
great point.
But my favorite thing in that moment was when he covered me, I could feel in his chest how excited he was. I could literally feel like how that was a big deal. And he had some words for me right before he covered me. And that felt so good as a wrestler. Like, man, I feel just as good had I won in this fashion as I do in this moment, watching him do everything he said he wanted to do. And I helped you put him in my playing field when you got him to come and have a conversation with me. So I consider him one of my people. Man, if I can't do it for one of my people, then, so I felt really like that was the right thing. It was the right thing for the show. It was the right thing for the flow of the TNT title. And it was the right guy. And then he was able to, I talked about this with the Bucks. Brody was able to jump into a place with BTE and the show where he could do both. Super fun BTE stuff with John Silver and the crew, and it could easily translate right over, but he was still a monster. The big concern is always, if you go funny, or whatever Daniel Bryan used to always tell me, if it's funny, it doesn't draw money, whatever it was. But it can when it's the right person.
He wasn't being funny, though. His cast of characters were.
He was, like you say, he was playing it straight.
Yeah.
And when you commit to something, it's the magic of BTE. That's only actually happened a few times. It was something that I really I'm not on BTE anymore, but when I was first on it with Ring of Honor, that's what we found a very similar thing. My wrestling Ring of Honor and New Japan character was one thing, but on BTE we were doing the revival, we were doing the exorcisms and all these ridiculous things, but I was always dead on and as committed to them as I am to the wrestling. In that moment, our commitment hopefully begets the fans' commitment. But yeah, that squash or enhancement, I mean, that was a squash. I loved it.
I would say it was a story because a squash is with an enhancement guy. And for me watching it, because I didn't know what you guys were doing, I was like, okay, because you said there's typical wrestling tropes. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Cody's a good babyface. What does a babyface do? Sell. You get beat up for a while, and then he's going to make his comeback, and then we're going to go into the false finishes, and then, but dude, there was no comeback, there was no false finishes, and that's what I was like. I really remember thinking that's great.
Yeah,
like you said, with the right guy, with the reason why, from a shoot standpoint, why I had to leave, but even from a storyline standpoint, like he kicked your ass, and then he kicked your family's ass, and that's what wrestling's all about.
We have to end, the big question I always ask Tony, and Tony's always got a great answer, is like, how are we ending? What's the final? Really, more than anything, tell me what you think for the final. Because wrestling should never be, especially for the hardcore fans, which so much of our audience is made up of the hardcore fans, we should never allow them to I know how this is going to go.
Predictable, right?
Yeah, never. So like you said, it's a sell, it's a babyface, he'll make his comeback until you don't. Or he's not going to win with that until he does, or until she does. That is one thing, the beauty of AEW, whether it's finishes or break spots, all those rules that aren't correct are gone. And that's not knocking anyone. The rules have been created, and we've been able to break all the rules. And that is a beautiful thing, because you're just I don't know, the wheel, we're not reinventing the wheel. If anything, it's a beautiful thing we have here, and he was a prime example of that. I loved every piece of that. You had a big part of that story, because I was only going to come back just straight for the dog collar.
You wanted to come back right for the dog
collar.
collar.
And I think I didn't tell you the true reason why. No better time than Talk is Jericho. The true reason I was worried, and I think I told you, hey, I just want to come back and do the dog collar. Advertise me coming back, I do a dog collar.
After 5 weeks gone, Cody's back next week, dog collar
match. And you had said, well, what if you came back and you got one of his guys and you made a statement? And because I explained there would be a little bit of a change in me, basing it a little bit off Vader Inoki meets Death of Superman, with the black hair, new logo. And you had said, well, the interviews is such an important part of wrestling. Interview is a huge part of being a wrestler. You cut a great
promo, and the way you had it, we were getting robbed of that great return promo. Yeah.
But my big concern, you were totally right, and I told you, you and Tony both were right. Let's do the promo with the run-in. Let's have him frame up the dog collar, the bad guy call for it, the antagonist or the heel.
Yeah, right.
But then I was also worried. I was like, well, I worry about the dog collar because it's on Jericho 30. And
that's right.
I never had to worry because we balanced the show in such a way that it was given the true amount of time it needed to be given. It was given the seriousness that needed to be given. And then Jericho 30 was also given all the bells and whistles. There was different flavors. There were different flavors.
You didn't want it to be cut short because the show had the Jericho stuff kind of at the end.
Well, I was worried.
That makes sense.
We're going to have this violent potential culmination to this story. And it was the culmination to the story. And there's also going to be Gene Simmons and all the, but that...
Saturday Night Live credits at the end.
Yeah, that's wrestling.
Right.
It really is. Yeah. That's wrestling. Greg Valentine's in the crowd.
That's right.
At Jericho 30, that's wrestling. So that was a really good lesson that you taught me, and Tony and you both were hitting me at the same time. Sure, you just want to do the dog collar?
So I want to talk about the classic dog collar match that you had with Brody. But first, I want to say thank you to another longtime Talk is Jericho sponsor who's been hooking up so many businesses with awesome employees, talking about Indeed.com/Jericho. If you're using anything other than Indeed for your hiring, you are wasting your time. Hire great people faster with Indeed and only pay for results and get back time in your schedule. Indeed.com is the hiring site that helps you find quality candidates instantly with Indeed Instant Match. So you can do the part you really need faster, meeting and hiring great people. Unlike some hiring sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility, delivering a quality shortlist faster. With Indeed, there are no long-term contracts. You can pause your account at any time, and you only pay for what you need. Indeed searches through the millions of resumes in their database to help show you great candidates instantly. With Instant Match, you see a list of great candidates with zero wait. And Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. You want your quality shortlist fast? You need Indeed. Right now, you get a free $75 credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Jericho. This is Indeed's best offer available anywhere. Get a free $75 credit at Indeed.com/Jericho. Indeed.com/Jericho. Offer valid through March 31st. Terms and conditions apply. Talk about the dog collar match because it was another great match, probably the best one that I've ever seen.
Jerry Lynn helped put it together. And Jerry Lynn's wonderful. It was really, as the first thing, the night before I'm putting the collar on, and the chain, and we're pulling on each other, and it's like a cage. The first time you get in a cage, you're like, ugh. Yeah, what do we do? What? This is awkward. You know, like the Elimination Chamber. Like, am I supposed to take a bump here? Mm-hmm. Well, like, and then I kept worried. I'm very worried about our necks. Like, any whiplash, and he's so big. But that was one of the things that made him, as you're somebody who worked him and always sung his praises on his work. He could make something look incredibly violent without, he could do it to you every night. Yeah. We could have done that dog collar every night. I'm a big, as you know this, I am overly prepared. I like to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. So we had another set of collars,
just in case,
and chain under the ring. And we ended up using that as part of his a big picture and frame we made of him backstage. And I was telling Amanda, this was the chain in case the other one broke. He was going to double clothesline, go put it on himself like an animal, and then put it on me.
That's great.
So we had that plan. I was glad to see it get used. But everything went how we'd like it to go. He was really adamant that we do going into the commercial, we do a really big bump in the commercial. Again, another one of the rules. Oh, you can't give anything away in the commercial.
Right.
Until you can. And I love that about here. I'm waiting for us to do a finish in the commercial. Here's what you missed.
Picture in picture.
Yep.
Didn't we even do that once for the Iron Man match,
yep.
right? Was it Pac and Kenny?
Pac and Kenny. Yeah, you can't tune away. But yeah, he had me do Kevin Owens' package pile driver. And he was really confident in my strength. And I was able to do it, no problem. He pushed me and he challenged me as a wrestler. And
through a table or something?
Yeah, through a table. And I loved that. Pushed me, challenged me. And one of my favorite things from a match is I punched him with the chain on my hand. And he just said, I want you to punch me in the face as hard as you can. So I reared back and just leveled him, and he just chuckled. Only you never would see it or know it on TV. But he really wanted to do a dog collar. He really wanted to do a gritty, serious rivalry. And what a I was telling Brandy, I was like, I know this has nothing to do with me. It's all about let's make sure his family's okay. Let's do everything we can. I hated the fact that I was his last match. Like, I loved it. And I loved that feeling, but I also hated it because, God, we were denied all these other great matches. And I wasn't confident in that being, obviously he could have continued and been better and done more stuff, and I could have been better. But, yeah, I hated and loved that I shared that moment with him. But now I look at it more with the reverence and love, just because he got to go out, the thing he wanted the most, the thing he told you, he got to go out on top.
Yeah.
Which is great.
No, I mean, that was the main event of the show. When we were on, like I said, there's a big difference between going on last and being the main event. And that I totally see your point, but I will say that, you know, in the pantheon of choices that we could have, to go out on your very best match or one of your best matches that you've ever had, you know, there's a certain bit of calmness and closure to that as well, you know?
Yeah. It feels like I feel like when someone passes away, I felt like this with my dad. And this is one of the reasons that I was close with Brody, is when my dad passed away, Brody lost his dad, I think when he was 20. Brody's
41.
Yeah, and he had lost his dad. 20, right? Yeah. And we're Quicken Loans Arena. We're in the Annex locker room. And I asked him, I said, you know what's weird is it just feels like the next day just happened. The sun came up. People were talking about funeral plans. People were talking about what they're going to eat. But to me, the world stopped. And I remember him telling me, he goes, I have felt the same way for 10 years. He said, it won't get better. And no one was wanting to tell me that. No one was saying the truth. You know, time will make it better. He said, I felt that way for 10 years. And that was the best advice that was given to me. It's like, it won't change. You'll feel like you're still there every day. But you can carry that forward in a positive. You know, I watch my dad's the video package that WWE had made him when he passed away almost every day.
Really?
And I was proud at AEW, and you were a huge part of putting this show together. I'm proud that his family has that show to look at, because the whole thing is done in such a genuine way of, man, this is actually for you. This is for you, and this is for the world to know, if you didn't know all those interviews, how special you were. This is all about you. So I was so proud to be on it. I hope that Nolan, who's only 3, I hope he can see it one day and just know, like, wow, he wasn't, not that they're, you know, well, there are just average wrestlers, average people, and there are shitty people who get into wrestling, and there are great people. This guy was great at wrestling and great at being a person, a great fan, like the ultimate family man. Because he bought me a bottle of bourbon for the dog collar match, and I knew we would never drink it together. I knew he would be gone as soon as he could leave.
Right, because that was what he would do. He would
go
leave
home
right after the show. Yeah.
I knew. He even said, I said, are we going to get this? And he just, I don't know.
I said last week, I mean, I've been flying from Tampa to Jacksonville on the plane every week. And Dean and Hager always come with me, and Brody never would. I'm like, dude, just come with us.
Yeah.
You'll be home at 11 a.m. He's like, I got to get home in time for my wife to go to work and be with my kids. You know, it's like, okay. So that's another last thing I'll say. That guy, his entire AEW career was in this building in Daly's Place. Think about that. He never appeared in front of a crowd except for our small crowds here.
And that the one that really pisses us off is that Rochester show that he was going to, you know, I don't know if anyone knows this, but he was going to come up out of the ramp like the monster in the Munsters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and well, the best is all this Generation Z and younger people we have here. If you say the Munsters, they're like...
It's pronounced monster.
I think I was telling Britt, and she was like, what?
Yeah, right.
And somebody else was like, he's coming from the middle. I'm like, no, it's not the middle, because I'm so particular about the damn middle. Like, it's not the middle. It's from it's from the ramp. It's from the stage, and then I'm showing pictures. I'm like, this doesn't help. It's from the middle.
Yeah.
But God, I think everyone who got the chance to meet him and got the chance to work with him, he was speaking of all those Generation Z guys who are going through these phases of being television stars. He is the perfect guy to let you know, like, slow down, enjoy it, don't screw up, learn. Know there's going to be some peaks and there's going to be some valleys, some highs and lows, because he was even keeled no matter his own highs and lows. Always talking to the same guy.
Last thing I wanted to discuss with you today is besides, you know, the tragedy of Brody, our first year in AEW, which has been a lot of successes, pretty much across the board. I mean, obviously we've had some ups and downs. One of them just surviving in the middle of a pandemic, but being EVP and a very active one. Not that the other cats aren't, but you really, I think, enjoy the role of being an executive vice president. Not that the other guys don't, but it just seems you have really embraced it. How's the first year been? That's such a vague and general question. Is it more work than you thought? Is it just ramping up? Kind of what are your opinions on the first 12 months that we had?
Somebody asked me, like, grade it. And of course, as part of the company, you're like, well, you're not going to give it a bad grade. But I said, like, A. And there's room for an A+. Like, because we know where we need to grow.